To the Houston Texans by the Buffalo Bills. Steve, back to you.
The #1 tennis player in the world is here in Bristol, Connecticut today filming a commercial for ESPN, and he joins us now on ESPN News. His name is Roger Federer. Roger, welcome to ESPN News and to Bristol. Bristol a lot like Basel, Switzerland?
A little smaller, I have to say, you know, but drove out from New York this morning and was at the UN yesterday. I got Goodwill Ambassador for UNICEF and everything was very exciting. So no, it's good to be here, good to see the place, so I know what's going on. Yeah,
what's filming a SportsCenter commercial like?
Well, it's very relaxing. It's like in the middle of all the people working, and it's just two guys there, you know, cracking jokes really, and making a good sort of publicity. It's pretty fun. You know, you're kind of well known as much for your tennis as staying out of the limelight a bit, and tennis fans here in the United States seem to want to see more of you. Is this a concerted effort to try to do that? Yeah, maybe a little bit, you know, in the States. You know, the season is so worldwide for us, so global, that we travel from January till November, you know, so we can't spend all the time here in the States. But for me, it's been, you know, very successful. And maybe, you know, in a way, it's a little bit of an approach as to maybe get into the American market a little bit more. I wonder if somebody just forgot to give you the book on what how you're supposed to behave as an athlete in this day and age, and you don't have a real manager, you don't have a PR people, you don't have a whole host of 100 people following you around, a posse. Did you just miss that day in school where they said this is how you're supposed to act as an athlete these days? I think it's got to work out for you, and it's actually been more like a year ago, 2 years ago, where I would really had my own sort of a team. Now, you know, I'm back with IMG. They're helping me out too. You know, my parents are still helping me out too, you know, to help with the charity and everything. And my girlfriend obviously also helps me a great deal, you know, by organizing all the stuff that goes around the daily plan. So no, in the end, I still have quite a big group, and I think it's almost necessary if you want to be the #1 in the world. Yeah, well, on the court, you're still having no problem. 28-1 this year. You just dispatched Ivan Lubicic down in Key Biscayne in straight sets. At what point do you start kind of playing against history? Well, it seems like right now, to be honest, because sort of halfway with Sampras's records and starting to break some, you know, like yesterday or like on Monday when on Sunday when I beat you know, Lubicic to win Miami. That's something nobody's ever achieved, to win Indian Wells and Miami back-to-back, you know. So obviously when you start beating records and you know, being a record holder, let's say, obviously right away you start flirting with the records, and it's sort of nice to, you know, not only play against them but also play against history a little bit sometimes. Yeah, you already took your 7th Grand Slam earlier this year, the Australian Open. You don't really have a true rival. Guys have come up through the years, Safin, Hewitt, and Roddick, and no one has really stuck around. What impact do you think that has on men's tennis and its popularity, that there isn't a great rivalry like the McEnroe-Connors? Well, it's hard to say. I think you know, we're so used to seeing rivalry all the time in tennis. At the moment, there's maybe a little bit of a domination, I agree, but at the same time, you know, there's always a new one coming up. You know, once it was Roddick, once it was Hewitt, and once it was Safin, and then now it's Nadal. So Agassi is still around. So I believe we have many greats in the game right now. And for a while, really 3-4 years ago, we had every Grand Slam another guy won the slams, and that wasn't fun either, you know, people said. So now all of a sudden I win a few and it's still not so much fun, but I think it's actually very good for the game. And I think the French Open for me is huge now, because if I could win the French, I could win 4 Grand Slams in a row, and that's something that hasn't happened for a long time in tennis. Yeah, that's still the one kind of missing piece on your resume. You get to the semis at Roland Garros last year and lose to Nadal. How much does that bother you that you don't have that yet? Oh, it doesn't bother me. You know, I haven't given myself the chance, really. It's really only last year that I lost against the best clay court player of last year, against Nadal. He played better than me, and I hope to give myself another opportunity this year. But you know, sort of, it's nice also to have something to look forward to. I've never accomplished, you know, to winning the French, but it's going to be extremely hard. You know, I got to be mentally and physically on top of my game, and then maybe be a little lucky, who knows. And looking ahead to this summer, Wimbledon is where you had your Grand Slam breakthrough in 2003. July 9th is the final there, the men's championship. It's also the final of the World Cup. Now, Switzerland's in a pretty tough group this summer, but if they get to the World Cup final and you're in the Wimbledon final, how many people in Switzerland will be watching your tennis match that day? Well, hard to say, but the chances of me making the finals are bigger than the Swiss team, you know, but there's so many great soccer teams around right now. But I would be watching too if I wouldn't be playing, you know, that's for sure. But no, I mean, I have great fans in Switzerland, and the soccer team is being followed very much so, because they really come along strong in the last couple of years now. So, and they finally got a really young and dynamic team, and hopefully they'll do well at the World Cup.
Well, if your track record is any indication, you'll be very busy on that day in Wimbledon. Roger Federer, #1 tennis player in the world, we thank you for joining us on ESPN News.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, coming up, we're talking about the NBA. Chris Webber having kind of a surprisingly great season. What's the secret behind his success, and which coaches are on the hot seat? We're talking to an insider. That's coming up on the Hot List.
Wake up to ESPN.